Welcome to Smart Manufacturing Mindset, where we challenge guests to think differently about manufacturing. We'll explore the nuances that hide in plain sight behind the acronyms, techno-jargon, and misinformation to get to the truths that hold real value for real people in the industry.
Hello and welcome. My name is Mike Yost. I'm your host today, and I'm glad you could join us for this next edition of the CESMII Smart Manufacturing Mindset LinkedIn Live events. In every episode, we challenge ourselves and our guests to think differently about smart manufacturing. We challenge ourselves to think differently because we believe that now is the time for manufacturers to think about building digital capabilities the way that you have built safety and quality and continuous improvement capabilities over the last several decades. So I'm excited today that we'll have a few manufacturing leaders with us from Andersen Corporation talking about leveraging the CESMII Acceleration Framework for strategic success. So joining me in studio today are three leaders from Andersen Corporation. We have Ben Adamson, VP of Advanced Manufacturing and Strategic Supply Chain Enablement. Hi, Ben.
Hey, hello, Mike. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here. We also have Chris Campbell, Vice President of Information Technology. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Mike. Good to be here.
And lastly, we have Garen Riemenschneider, the technical leader.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for being here. Now, these are the guys that everybody wants to hear from, and we will do so, get started in just a minute after a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, I would say that if you do not yet know CESMII, I would encourage you to get to know them. CESMII is the U.S. National Institute on Smart Manufacturing, and they're building out the smart manufacturing ecosystem through education and outreach events such as this. And this series would not be possible if it was not for the support of SME, who is also partnering with us and helping deliver these webinars. Our goal with these webinars is to zero in on a different way of thinking about being a modern day manufacturer. We are streaming on LinkedIn Live, and we welcome your questions and comments. Please feel free to ask anything you like, and if they fit within the flow of the conversation, we will go ahead and include them. If not, these conversations can continue beyond today's event. The event is being recorded so that you can watch it again and again, as many times as you would like. And lastly, again, I would invite you to get to know CESMII. Check them out on LinkedIn, follow them on LinkedIn, check out their website at cesmi.org, where you can find out all sorts of information about their mission and their projects and their research, education, membership, and much, much more. So with that, let's get on to the show and talk about leveraging the CESMII Acceleration Framework for strategic success. I'll ask each of you guys, if you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself, tell us about your role, and specifically as it pertains to the work we're discussing today on this Acceleration Framework project. And Ben, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. My name is Ben Adamson. I've been making windows and doors for nearly 24 years, so I've got a pretty good run here at Andersen Windows. Today, I have a responsibility for the end-to-end supply chain for a part of the company called Renewal by Andersen, where we sell directly to the customers. They also have responsibilities for several kind of enterprise corporate functions with manufacturing engineering, MIT, which is our manufacturing innovation and transformation team, supply chain architecture, facilities management, and real estate. So I really operate part of our supply chain. I help build our supply chain, and I help plan the future. So I get to operate in all sorts of perspectives around our supply chain, which is super exciting.
Yeah, that's some fantastic perspective I'm sure you'll be able to share here. So thank you for that, Ben. Chris, how about you introduce yourself here?
Yeah, I'm glad to. Chris Campbell, I'm Vice President of Information Technology at Andersen Corporation. What that specifically means is I have oversight for our enterprise core, our core supply chain capabilities, our financial capabilities, and the digital threads that connect the two, with a heavy focus on data activation as well. And I have the pleasure of working with Ben. Maybe I'm the digital Ben, I don't know, but I try to keep up and help Ben with all his jobs as well.
Thanks, Chris.
So there's lots of work to do there. So Garen, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. My name is Garen Riemenschneider. Been at Andersen for 13 years working in the manufacturing engineering space. I've had roles in fabrication, assembly, and material handling across multiple sites, so I'm able to bring that perspective of manufacturing to Andersen's smart manufacturing journey. And I have a passion for IT space, IT-OT convergence. So I've been in a technical lead role in the IoT space which is getting data off the shop floor, doing the edge compute, storing the data, and putting AI or ML on top of it.
Outstanding. Well, we didn't script out, who would answer what questions first. So I'm just going to throw this out, and if I need to, I'll call on somebody. But essentially, what I wanted to understand to start with is what motivated your organization to get engaged with CESMII and get moving on using their acceleration framework for the company. Somebody want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, maybe I'll start, Ben, and you can chime in. So I had a selfish motivation. I've only been at Andersen a year, and so selfishly, it's a very complicated set of processes and capabilities to really make windows and doors at the scale and at the quality we do. And I helped bring CESMII in along with Ben and Garen to selfishly help me understand a lot of our supply chain and manufacturing and how we best support it from an IT, but more intrinsically and broadly, really to help us create a strategy and a set of priorities moving forward. How could we take the IT portfolio, the supply chain capabilities, and really mesh those together in a way that everybody from our value adders on the shop floor all the way to our boardroom could see the intersection of and the value. And CESMII was just an ideal partner in that choice.
Excellent. Ben or Garen, you have anything to add?
I would just add, when I think about our supply chain, we're in this relentless pursuit of world-class customer experience. And I think we recognize that the data within the supply chain, the connectivity of our end-to-end mindset will never reach its full potential unless we can really figure out, how to unlock, these connections, the ability to analyze data at a different level. I think what the CESMII program has done for us is it allowed us to get started. It brought in some external expertise to help us kind of figure out, how to get moving in the right direction. I think it also helped us just get organized internally so that we were more focused on a mission of, unleashing our Industry 4.0 world-class supply chain.
Yeah, definitely helps that our Chief Digital Officer is a member of CESMII to help us get involved and bring some of that fresh perspective to Andersen. So
maybe just a little stage setting. Because you just said somebody from the leadership group is involved with CESMII. So have you been on a long-term journey when it comes to? It sounds like you're pretty sophisticated organizationally. When it comes to the digital capabilities for your company. So has this been a pretty well ingrained journey that you guys have been on for a while?
Yeah, I mean, we've been on a journey for smart manufacturing for a long time, but I wouldn't say it's an evolving journey. We're definitely in the middle. I think that CESMII allowed us to accelerate that journey with the acceleration framework, move faster in space. Organizationally, I feel like that's going to be some of the big hurdles that we have worked through and we will be working through in the future. How to get alignment and work together with all this new technology coming at us. It's going to be definitely part of the big challenges ahead of us as well.
So is that one of the areas where you see the opportunity? You've talked about internal and external resources. You've talked about supply chain and delivering at scale with quality. Right? There's a number of different dimensions you guys are trying to balance against. Do you feel like I guess maybe talk about the ability to align internally, because I believe that's one of the benefits really of the acceleration framework, right, is to get the internal team on the same page. Chris, maybe you want to talk to that?
Yeah, well, I'll share a personal story. I think Garen and I started working together ahead of the CESMII engagement. As I said, I've only been here a year. What was interesting is we approached the world from two very different vantage points, but with a sort of common cause, I would say, Garen.
Yeah.
And I think through this exercise, we talk about strategy alignment, and that can sound very corporate-y and high level, but I think Garen and I developed an empathy for each other's worlds, right? And so not only for the empathy for the world of what our operator is dealing with on shop floor, he's trying to navigate from IT, OT, but then from his side, how do we bring our leadership along and understand that while we have pockets of brilliance, what it's going to take to scale this, it's going to try some different models, and we're going to have to take some different approaches. So I mean, personally, I love the fact that I got to work with Garen on this and just understand his world. And I would say, secondly, and I'd love to hear Ben's commentary as well, it's rare that you can get a huge operations voice in strategy development. And so I think the approach and the tactics we took with surveying quite a cadre of different roles and responsibilities, enabled everybody's voice to come all together and really help us shape the perspective of where we're going, especially in service to our supply chain capabilities.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I think the process really helped us get that voice. We interviewed, or we surveyed several hundred people, got their feedback in kind of a survey format that was then logged into data. We had 18 different kind of in-depth interviews, which we had kind of two-way dialogue to really try to kind of just drill deeper into people's understanding and ideas around, smart manufacturing and Industry 4.0. And then I think about just this group. I know, Chris is relatively new to the organization, brings in a lot of technical perspective, ideas and perspectives from different companies. I'm kind of the surly veteran person that's been around 24 years that really has been a part of, window and door making from an engineer one up to a vice president. And then a person like Garen is like, at the level of action where he is really a true technical leader and a technical expert around, getting things done. And it's been really fun for me for the three of us, I think, to connect around how do we kind of triangulate literally around, what it means to be a smart manufacturer and really drive, true customer value through this work. But I think the three perspectives working together has really, I think, helped us maybe just see the world differently. I know each of us have learned a lot from each other already on the journey.
We're a company full of problem solvers, and we had a motto of different and better. We really enabled the people to take charge and solve their problems. And while that's excellent for innovation, what the CESMII framework allowed us to do is to get that vantage point across the organization to see where those best practices were or where we were evolving, to isolate and grab and get alignment to move forward together in the same direction, I think.
So, there's a number of things you guys have already highlighted that I think are strong benefits of the program. Is there anything else you can point to? Obviously, not getting into specifics of returns and things like that, but anything else you can point to about the framework as far as specific benefits or aha moments or things like that have even anecdotally popped up through the course of the project?
I can start. For me, just getting the perspective from the survey to see the breakout of the different roles and functions across the organization and where we felt we were, as well as interviews with those leaders. Something so simple as just building those connections to ensure that all the work that we're doing is either not being duplicated or overtly innovative can reduce a lot of waste in the long run. Just something as simple as using the framework to get that alignment, I think, is going to be one of the very first and initial key benefits you would get out of using it.
And I also think, how we deployed it using, Jim Wetzel as an expert and NxGen to help us facilitate. So we were able to not only have that third-party facilitation, but also push and pull based on the experience and practicing that came with it. Mm-hmm. And so when we got into more technical topics, it wasn't at a surface level. We were actually diving into OEE and the pros and cons and how do we really think about, the different structure of our equipment bombs and things like that. And so it allowed us to interrogate at a level deeper that really made sure we were coalescing around facts and not opinions. Mm-hmm. And then we were able to surface that into a real roadmap. And it sounds super easy just to say, well, what are our problems? Let's put it together. Let's charter the course forward. But to ensure people are heard, that you interrogate at the right levels of technical and strategic detail, and then being able to synthesize that in a way that everybody sees themselves in, I think that third-party facilitation and then the framework that CESMII provided allowed both of those things to happen.
I do think that's one of the things that's differentiated about the approach, right? This is not a project you buy from CESMII for somebody to come in from the outside and build a roadmap and tell you what to do, right? This is facilitation of your team using these tools, learning these tools with the guidance of experienced practitioners to come alongside you and help you build your own roadmap, correct? Mm-hmm. And so how does that sit with you as you engage the rest of the organization? Because I know a lot of times we'll be talking to people and they'll be saying, hey, I'm the person that the company said I own smart manufacturing, or I have to figure out what Industry 4.0 means, right? And they don't have a broader team that's around them. I guess that role, that value of learning and owning. Do you guys feel like you can run with this when there is no NxGen in the building, or you're learning to fish as opposed to having someone fish for you, I guess?
I can start by just mentioning this. This wasn't our first run at trying to build a smart manufacturing roadmap.
Okay.
I think we've done this multiple times. I think the key to success, starting with CESMII, was you really have to start at the top of the organization to be successful. We really need to figure out, is this going to be a priority of ours at the most senior level? Are we going to make time for that? And then having Chris and Ben on board really made that possible, so we could get that alignment, build that strategy, and start to think about moving as a whole organization.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I think one thing I personally took out of the work was just, even for myself, education, right? So we all read articles and you kind of catch smart manufacturing or industry 4.0 at the headline level. We start drilling in deeper, like, what does it really mean? What does it really mean for your business? What does it really mean for different segments of your supply chain? How do you get to action? And I think the CESMII work really helped, maybe bring more clarity to some of this area. Maybe more substance was brought forward, and it just felt like it was much more of a tangible path forward than some of our past attempts, which felt more based on kind of small projects or kind of pilot purgatory, as we call it. This was much more holistic, and I felt like it gave us a really good framework. It's something I feel like was kind of built to last. Now we really understand, where we want to go with our smart manufacturing plan.
Yeah, I know one of the things Jim particularly has talked about for some time, because he obviously has long roots with CESMII. We go back a number of years, but he always talks about the defining what help looks like for every company, potentially every plant, right? So it's different, it's unique, and sounds like you guys are able to get those voices heard in this approach. So obviously, it's all rainbow and sunshine, right? I mean, there's no problems here at all that we've discussed, at least so far. Any obstacles that you guys can articulate? Obviously, not sharing any dirty laundry or anything like that, but what are some of the bumps that folks could expect to run into?
Well, maybe I'll start. I see Darren's got a few, I'm sure.
Yeah, it looks like he's ready.
So I'll maybe put him in two camps. There's the execution and the framing of the assessment, and there's what you do with it afterwards. On the first, right, like, there's probably a fair amount of assessment fatigue in a lot of companies right now, and I don't think we're any different, right? It's the approaches are, I get some data, I interview some people, and then what's going to be different. And so I think we worked really hard, and I'll give Darren all the credit in the world. He did the work to make sure at different levels of the organization, people saw what was in it for them, and that they needed to bring their voice and not just be skeptical of it. So I think we got over that through the assessment. And then honestly, we took the people who were passionate and galvanized them and didn't try to formalize it too much.
Okay.
On the other side of activation, I think we're running into some of the same challenges that every company has, where there's a lot of priorities, and whether you have the right resources or not, whether those resources have the right subject matter expertise to really galvanize an action. I think we're going through that, and I look to Ben a lot for his leadership. I think he does an amazing job of cutting through that and saying, we're going to go build the best thing we can here, even if we can't do it everywhere yet, to show what good looks like. And so I think we're finding the difference between progress and perfection, and we're executing pretty well within that. And I give these two leaders a ton of credit for that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I would just add maybe to that, Chris. I think trying to connect the work to real outcomes is important. We talk a lot about world-class homeowner experience or world-class customer experience. We talk a lot about different levels of quality levels. We talk about, world-class delivery performance. And when you start to realize, I think, that this is about that. This is about how do you take the data, the processes, this idea of an end-to-end supply chain and better connected digitally so that we can deliver, on those customer promises and drive that competitive advantage. And I think for me, when we connect this work to an outcome that we're trying to drive from a business or customer perspective, it brings reality to the table, and it kind of gives you that driver of why we're talking about smart manufacturing. The second thing I would say is, we're a growing business, and we continue to invest money and capacity and supply chain, and we're building a brand new plant that I'm responsible to build down in Locust Grove, Georgia. So we're going to open up the doors to a new site here in third quarter of this year, and we're extremely excited about kind of entering into a new region of the country. And I'm gonna tell you, if we're going to build a new plant, it needs to be built on the fundamentals of smart manufacturing. It needs to be connected from inbound, outbound, all the way to the customer. It needs to be built at the right quality levels, the right safety levels. And I think the smart manufacturing model and mindset allows us, it sounds like a blueprint for us to go build new things, hopefully correctly or better than we have in the past because we have more knowledge, and then hopefully carry back into our legacy plants and legacy operations similar solutions. So we're trying to be opportunistic around, we don't just have to fund this thing as a standalone project, but we could use this mindset to guide how we're executing existing projects that we'll do regardless of our smart manufacturing strategy, just to support growth. So kind of using this as an opportunistic way to build better is what we're trying to do. And it's exciting. It's fun to build big new stuff that's connected and exciting. And we're gonna be really happy with where we're at here in our new site.
Well, and Garen, how about you? You looked like you had something to throw in here with the obstacles and the realities of going down this path.
Yeah, a couple of buzzwords to kick it off with. I talked about different and better. We had talked about pilot purgatory. Yep. We had talked about, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the right to go digital as another buzz phrase. But the transition, I think to Andersen pre-CESMII, some of the challenges we had where we had encourage a different and better environment. We might have been stuck in pilot purgatory, meaning we had all these problem solvers we had enabled to solve the same problems. And that's kind of the root cause of why you might get stuck in doing your pilots or POCs over and over again. Can you transition though into like an all-together mentality? Can you start to think about how to reduce process variation, because that's going to promote smart manufacturing, and reduce the amount of tech debt you have going forward in all of your different solutions. And one challenge that Andersen has specifically, or that we still have, that we have at least identified and we're aware of now, is, how do we implement smart manufacturing not only in a brownfield environment, but in multiple brownfield environments, multiple unique brownfield environments. And that's where we talked about the right to go digital. So this has been some great initiatives out in the shop floor to say, let's get our Industry 3.0 correct. And then we'll start thinking about Industry 4.0. And then can you identify those point solutions that are the winners? And can you bring those forward and make them standards across the organization? Get everybody to jump off from the same starting line, I think that's probably, in my opinion, the biggest learning I've had over the past 3 or 4 years is it's so much more critical to say, I've got the best behaviors to enable my smart manufacturing than to say I've got the best tech. And unfortunately, that's not, like Ben was saying, that's not as fun to go after, especially in my role. You have to do your homework, right? Eat your vegetables, so to speak, organizationally, before you can really jump in and have some fun. And then also you have to eliminate that tribal knowledge. And a lot of times, for smart manufacturing, you're going to have that digital signals. You can't have digital enablement, digital transformation until you have digital signals. So sometimes that means you have to take some of the best practices and back propagate them before you can then move forward as a whole.
So what I just heard sounds to me like it's good news for other manufacturers, right? Because you didn't come out and say, oh, we found the best technological solution to help us build doors and windows, and we adopted it at scale, right? You're talking about the basics, right, of how you build stuff and how you, ensure your quality and those sorts of things. So it sounds to me like it's a pretty, the kind of thing that people don't have to be intimidated by, and they could start the journey now without, I guess maybe the question that's rattling in my brain right now is, where does the technology fit, right? A lot of people lead a conversation with technology. We haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah.
I'll share an experience. So I've been to, I think, every one of our facilities except for 2 in the first year, and almost all of them asked me for some system when I arrived. Whether it's like, hey, I need a different ERP, I don't like my MES, I don't like what's happening here, can you give me the data, right? And my first question, back to Ben's point, is what outcomes are we not able to achieve right now? And let's unpack those outcomes. And so whether it's about reliability or throughput or the experience or reducing defects, I think we're on a journey to really get crystal clear on the outcomes we want to enable at scale. Then we're talking about how do we bring technology to bear? And that technology could either be we're buying a set of digital processes that we're going to deploy in tooling, we're using the technology to catalyze a set of behavioral changes and process transformation at the same time, or we have a very intentional architecture that leverages technology so we have the right complexity at the OT level versus the IT or the ET level. And so what I've really appreciated is people have been really willing to interrogate that conversation where they start with a system or a technology ask, and then we go and say, all right, let's unpack the outcomes, and then how do we get there to the pathway that Garen alluded to. Sometimes it's the basics, and they're not hard, but they're not easy either. And so how do we get there? And I just appreciate having partners like Ben and Garen who aren't trying to take a system and drive it through everywhere for the same set of outcomes.
Yeah. Proof of concepts are amazing. You're going to need proof of concepts to figure out what technologies to select. Okay. The trick, though, is making that transition to be intentional, like what Chris just said. Pick your winners, right? Pick your winners and push them forward.
Yeah. Now, just a question. So, how important is ecosystem, right? Because you guys are in different facilities. You talked about multiple facilities. Ben's talking about starting up a new facility, down in Georgia. How about what's the importance of the ecosystem around you to support what you guys are working to build and to scale it?
I think Ben's earned the right to answer this question.
I think it's very important. I mean, but the reality of we have plants at different states of their technology journey. We have plants that are pretty analog, and we have very advanced brand new plants. So for us, it's like our customers get windows from all of our different sites. We're trying to raise up all the ships with our world-class homeowner experience journey. So we have an obligation to kind of take care of everybody. I think sometimes in some cases, Garen's found very unique technical solutions that are agnostic of some of the systems in our plants, and we can layer those in everywhere. We have other solutions that are more elegantly tied to an LN or an MES platform that they're kind of come along for the ride when you do get the systems. To me, it's Garen talks a lot about pilot purgatory, or like the idea of you come up with these really amazing solutions. The ones I'm looking for are the ones we can deploy to all 106 value streams and all 17 sites. Because I think at the end of the day, it's not just about really cool solutions or really cool technology. It's about really cool technology at scale that's improving our customer experience. When we get that, then I think we're really winning. And we've got that in some neat solutions. And I think it's this combination of deploying unique solutions across as many plants as you can, as well as maybe building the best new plants of tomorrow, because you're learning a lot along the way too. And that's the journey, though. I wish it was a simple straight line, but I think the journey is these different experiences. And I think the journey is a commitment that says you're going to innovate, you're going to try some new things, but you're going to be outcome based, because it is about the customer or your business at the end of the day.
Yeah, excellent. Garen, did you have something that you were going to add there?
No, I think Ben answered that.
Excellent. And I think to that point of scale, right? I think one of the things, again, that I think is great about what CESMII's doing as the National Institute on Smart Manufacturing, right, is they're giving us a playbook, right? They're giving us the language, a model that we can teach everywhere, and everybody can take the same approach. So there may be folks that are watching this, other manufacturers that are considering getting started on their smart manufacturing journey. What advice would you guys give somebody who's watching right now, saying that they would like to get started and wondering how to get rolling?
I can kick it off. On a technology front, the smart manufacturing space is extremely noisy and exciting. But I'd say doing pilots is excellent. Jump off and do lots of pilots, but also take a step back and ask about those business needs, and think about the speed of relevance is another key thing I keep hearing all the time now. Get that alignment from the top, identify those best practices, and then seek to elevate and replicate.
So could I ask just for 1 second to stick with the first point you made, Garen, about pilots? When you define a pilot, are you looking at it saying that we're proving out something that's going down a path we're committed to, and if that pilot doesn't work, we'll find another way toward that end state? Or are you saying we're going to put this thing in, if it doesn't work, we're abandoning that path altogether?
I do think that Andersen does have a atmosphere that doesn't detract from trying things out or learning from your experiences. So I think we can point at ourselves and say we've had plenty of examples where we've tried something and then had to take a step back and then try a different direction. I can think of several examples right off the top of my head, but yeah. I think that it's important to experiment, especially in a space that is so noisy, such as smart manufacturing.
But I think it's good. What I hear and what I see people doing that are successful with this is they may experiment like that, but they're not putting all their eggs in that basket. That if that thing, like a lot of times we'll talk to people and say, yeah, we tried that stuff. It doesn't work for us. As opposed to we took a path, we learned from it, we chose a different path, but we're still continuing forward as a business.
Right.
Yeah. So how about you other guys? Chris, Ben, what advice would you give to other manufacturers that are thinking about getting started?
Just maybe a couple of thoughts. Number one, Garen, I think about your group. One thing that Garen's brought to our organization is low-cost pilots. So we've gotten some very skilled people that can actually do the work versus having to go outside and get a quotation and a big design review, and then all of a sudden you're heavily invested in a pilot with the kind of capital or expense that you can't throw away. So by having really good technical people that have the skills, and we've developed some of those folks internally, and we hired some people, not 100 people, but 4 or 5. It's amazing what you can do for very low cost. So all of a sudden a pilot is a pilot, and if you throw it away, you're just out a little bit of time and not a bunch of money, and they're on to the next 4. So I think the ability to be agile and nimble, but that the enabler for that is people like Garen and his team that have the skills to do the work. That's super important. So maybe create a team that can do some of the work internally, so you don't have to spend so much money externally, and then you can move faster. I think for me as a senior leader, it's about education. I think I remember reading my first article on Industry 4.0, and I don't think I understood half of it. I've been personally on a path to be more actively engaged in understanding more about this space. I'll never be Garen. I'll never be a guy that can code and kind of do the work like he can. He's absolutely amazing. But as a senior leader, I need to know enough to be relevant. I need to know enough to be a part of the conversations that I can advocate, speak, and resource. And to me, taking an active role in learning is really important for your senior leadership group if you're committed to smart manufacturing. And then the last piece of advice I'd say is just get started. The longer you wait, the further behind you're going to get. And I truly believe if you want to unlock world-class homeowner experience in our industry or whatever your business outcome, we recognize that the world's changing quickly. Clearly, it's more digitally connected. This space isn't going away. It's going to become more and more important with all the AI and all the new things coming at us. And the longer you wait, I think the further behind you're going to get. So I think you just got to kind of jump in and just get started. And no, it's not going to be a straight path, but it's going to be about a path of progress over time. And that'd be my advice.
Excellent. Chris, how about you from the IT perspective?
I'll maybe add 2 pieces. One, very tactically, define stuff and make sure people stick with the definitions. I think when I first came here, I had like 7 meetings on smart manufacturing. And I had to spend like the first 10 minutes of each meeting, like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah. So it's silly as it sounds, a simple taxonomy, simple definition, so the organization just uses common vernacular. And then I would say the second, building on Ben's point, is have some semblance of the problems you're dealing with and how you can move quickly. And what Garen's team is it's a cross-functional team that can embed and deploy very quickly of IT, OT, engineering, and we don't worry about sort of all the titles and official functions. They work in an agile method. Once we've clarified the problem, they're off and running. And I think we need more of that. That model is more the future than the past.
Yeah. So it sounds to me, you brought up a number of times, definitions, clarity, education, et cetera. So it sounds to me like everybody's learned a bit, and not that you necessarily learned a specific definition of smart manufacturing, right? But you sort of learn how to work together. And I'm curious, I would think, because part of the real promise of smart manufacturing is that you can move beyond the operational to the strategic, right? And I would think when you get someone like Ben on the team or your senior leaders, that you're able to get them an understanding of what you have with these digital capabilities that you're building, that all of a sudden now you start to see things that you hadn't seen before. So have you guys learned things? Are you looking at what smart manufacturing is or could be differently today than you were in the past?
I think we've learned that. Maybe I'll start with even basic learning. I mean, when Ben and I first met, started riffing together, he would explain to me like why windows and doors are way more complicated than my ignorant point of view coming in. And he was entirely right. And then I would sort of do the same around, well, when we talk about things like MES or a platform or DevOps or whatever the terms were. And so just having the place and the relationship to interrogate that. But one of the things Ben took action on, and it's been a tremendous benefit for our organization, is actually establishing process and standards ownership for the make space. So now we can clearly say who's owning which parts of the design and the implementation and what's IT's role versus the business's role. And so I think getting some of that foundational model in place, even if you don't know exactly how everything's going to fit together, is really important. And that was, I think, a tremendous learning that we've actually already activated coming out of the work.
How about you guys, Ben or Garen? Anything that you've learned that you'd say is different today than a while back?
A lot of our mindset is we talk about end-to-end supply chain. That's something that Lance Whitaker, our Executive Vice President of Supply Chain, speaks to us a lot about. I think as an engineer growing up in the plants, you think about your machine, and maybe on a good day, you're thinking about the line that you're trying to optimize. Now, as we talk about, whether building a new site or operating a plant here, it's end-to-end mindset. And we know, all of us come out of COVID, how disruptive the supply chain was to get components and raw materials into manufacturing plants globally. We know how important it is to connect through logistics downstream. And the allure I have of smart manufacturing and Industry 4.0 is getting that data thread connected from our supply all the way to the homeowner, and really being able to unlock, where do we have waste or opportunities or ways to recover quickly if something were to happen. So this broadening of their supply chain and then connecting it digitally, I think it's happening today, but I think we're just starting that journey where I think someday that could be kind of a path to a whole different kind of set of customer experiences and values we can create.
So, Garen?
Ben just brought up the digital thread, and I'll point at that as like my key learning in that it's about connectivity, right? It's about integrations. It's not necessarily about flashy stuff. It's about information flow, infrastructure, pipelines, and sharing the knowledge. That's really going to be where the vast majority of your wins are going to come from.
Well, I told you guys before that to me, this is the ideal scenario, right? For us reaching our audience, for them to hear from other manufacturers, right? And it's not analyst speak, and it's not, a whole bunch of glitz and glam. So this has been phenomenal. And I commend you for what you're doing, and I'm sure there's plenty of work still to go ahead of you. But as we wrap up here, I think if we could, each of you just give us one takeaway that you would leave with the audience, and especially if you can tie it into, thinking differently about smart manufacturing. Ben, you want to start with us?
Sure. Actually, I think about the shop floor employees when I think about manufacturing often, and with smart manufacturing, we can give our shop floor employees all the tools, all the information in the right form they need to successfully do the job in front of them. For us, that job is produce a high quality window and door on time. When you can unlock the right data for the operator in the right language, the right color palette, in the right format to teach them how to do their job for the product that's in front of them in a mass customized world, it's absolutely amazing what that does for people. So I also think this is uniquely a way to kind of make our shop floor easier, more productive, and frankly, just a better place to work. And that's another kind of interesting but super important thing for me in terms of smart manufacturing.
That's excellent. Garen, how about you? Takeaway here?
I'm just going to echo what Chris said. Short and sweet. Just go ahead and get started. Dive right in, I think. A better time to start than now. So, yeah.
All right, Chris, you get the final word here.
All right, I'll leave you with maybe two things. One, I would say develop a point of view that you can act on and start to test really quickly. You're going to be wrong. Just figure out how wrong it is. And then two, develop the right partnerships. I am so fortunate to have internal partners who want to work on the problem and not worry about the functional pieces of it. And then externally, find your CESMII, find your NxGen, find those core partners that fit your culture and what you're trying to enable from an outcome standpoint, and leverage them. And keep refining and leveraging that, because it's going to take a heck of an ecosystem to really advance what we're espousing here with Industry 4.0.
Well, excellent. Well, I appreciate all your time, and I'm sure everybody watching appreciates it as well. So thank you to Chris and to Ben and to Garen for joining us here today. I'd also like to thank SME again for co-sponsoring and helping us deliver this webinar series. And then lastly, just to encourage you again to get to know CESMII, follow them on LinkedIn, look them up online at cesmi.org. You can also watch this on Apple Music or Spotify, as well as all the other episodes that we have recorded. And then I would encourage you to join us next month. We will be back here the last Tuesday of the month. So encourage you to join us on June 25th. And until then, I would remind you that when you think of smart manufacturing, think differently. Thanks, everybody.